For me, it was a life-changing moment. I talk about it as being the best thing that's ever happened to me because it allowed me to experience what clients experience.
Hey, what's up, everyone? We're recording another episode of the Managing Partners podcast. I'm excited to have you guys here today. I'm joined by a new friend, and he is just like me. We are here to help, lawyers and law firms help more people and focus on what they do best. Over the years, I've just really gotten in deeper and understanding how much lawyers do help people. And that's what drives us, my team. And, we is deeper than we just do marketing or whatever. So, and Jason here is just that. He is someone who, he is a lawyer himself, but he helps lawyers and he helps lawyers focus on more of what they need to be focused on. And so I'm excited for him to share his knowledge today and his background and his story. But I was just on Jason's podcast. I appreciate that. Great experience. And so wanted to reciprocate, have him on the show. And again, he's got an awesome story, amazing story. And it really helps firms around the country. And we'll get into that too. So Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Very happy to be here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad you came on the show to share. And Jason Lazarus, again, best-selling author, founder, CEO of Synergy, which we'll get into what Synergy is and what they do, as well as other things as well. You're in special needs law firm, I believe. So he's just super involved and doing a lot of good things. So Jason, obviously I always kick off the show with kind of letting us tell your story, your background, and what brought you to where you are today, servicing law firms.
Well, it really boils down to a desire to help people, and something that as I've built Synergy and in my law practice too, I've focused on this opportunity and privilege that we get to be a part of the resolution process of personal injury cases, primarily through healthcare lien resolution. I'm actually dressed a bit like a lawyer today because I actually was in court today through my law firm where I represent Medicaid recipients here in the state of Florida before the Division of Administrative Hearings to get liens reduced here in Florida if it's a Medicaid lien. And the client that I was representing today had second and third degree burns over 50% of their body from a gasoline explosion. And, those are the types of cases where it was $100,000 policy limits case, massive pain and suffering, non-economic damages case. And those are cases where, it's so important that they have someone that will fight for them to get the lien reduced, because it's the difference between netting out 20, 30 grand out of the 100 grand or more like 50, 60 grand. So, those things that I get the opportunity to do in my law practice here in Florida, but Synergy does on a national scale. I'm so proud of our mission and how we save millions, hundreds of millions of dollars each year for people that are typically very seriously injured and need that money to care for themselves. And for the personal injury law firms we serve, it takes something off of their plate and they get to leverage this team of experts that we've assembled here at Synergy, who are incredible people that believe in the mission and want to make sure ultimately every dollar is saved and secured for the injured party for their future, because that's what the mission's all about.
Yeah, I love that. And also, so the team over at Synergy, you guys, what, 80 plus folks?
Closer to 100.
Yeah, we've got 100. He must have hired like 20 people since I talked to him last. That's good. Let's say he's not a small operation. He's helping PI firms around the country. So they're not small time over there. And I wanted to kind of throw out too, Jason is an injury victim. He's experienced his own injury. So I don't know if you want to kind of talk about that and kind of how that's probably shaped some of your drive and mission there.
Yeah, in 2016, I got struck by a car while cycling. I was a very avid cyclist and was training time just because I was racing, and went out for a group ride that I always did every Tuesday and Thursday morning. And as I was riding to meet the group, I struck by a car, and I learned firsthand what, people that have been injured go through, from waking up in a hospital, not knowing what in the heck had happened to me, to going through every aspect of personal injury case, going to mediation. My case did not go to trial, it settled in mediation, and then going through the whole process of resolving my own lien that was asserted against my personal injury recovery. So, for me, it was a life-changing moment. I talk about it as being the best thing that's ever happened to me, because it allowed me to experience what clients experience, and was a good reset for life in general. When you wind up in the ICU for 10 days and on a ventilator and can't speak, you spend a lot of time in your own head because you can't talk. And it's a good reset. But, for me, it obviously sharpened the focus on the mission of helping people that have been injured, because it was so difficult for me going through that whole process. And I knew what to expect. It's not like I didn't know. I'd experienced it, not myself, but through my professional life. And so that actually led me to write a second book, which is called Litigation of Life, which is really for people that have been injured, almost like what to expect when settling. Because, for me, it was an opportunity to give a little back in that way, help people that are going through that. And I still use that with clients when we need to educate about different aspects of the things that we're experts in when it comes to a personal injury settlement. But, ultimately it's just an eye-opening experience. And had a recent episode of my podcast where I interviewed a fellow trial lawyer who had eerily struck by a car while cycling, same, and just the talk track was very similar. It made him better lawyer to better understand what his clients go through.
Yeah, no, that's quite unique, I guess, is one way to put it. And I feel like I met another lawyer. Maybe I had a lawyer on the show a couple years back that had been in an injury case themselves, and totally different mind shift, and that'll wake you up and change your mood real quick. So, interestingly enough, since we're on here talking about it, my business partner, who's down the hall, got struck while cycling by a car. Luckily, just the mirror hit him. He wrecked, his bike broke in half, all that good stuff. Never had any surgeries or major injuries. But I know it shaped him up real quick, and changed his perspective on a lot of things. So luckily he wasn't hurt, but yeah, similar situation there. So
yeah, unfortunately it's very common. And I don't know, I guess I was lucky for a long time, because I started riding and racing when I was early teens. So, and had raced all the way up until I went to college, had raced over in Europe and went to the nationals as a junior. And so I had been, doing it a very long time, and all the way through my 40s, and then got back into racing. But, I know so many people who have been, unfortunately hit by cars or just, serious injuries, or actually had a very good friend of mine who was a cycling companion die 3 weeks ago, just not hit by a car, but in a cycling related accident, had a freak accident, went over the handlebars, broke his neck, and died instantly. It's, unfortunately, like anything like that, there's a lot of risk associated with it. But today, with cars and people on cell phones, it's really, I no longer go out on the roads like I used to. I'm more on trails and places that it's hopefully a little bit safer. Still you have to interact with cars, and there's just danger associated with that,
Yeah, well, that's the cell phones and the use you see around. Yeah, PI firms listening, I'm sure they see a lot of those kinds of cases. So back to synergy, I want to focus on, so the PI firms listening, law firms listening, I guess step us a little bit through some of the things you take off their plate. Why would, when they're thinking about this, what does it come to their mind? Do all firms know that this service exists? What does that look like?
Well, I would say that the answer to that is a definitive no. We had several new people, which is why I was talking about, our numbers that were on our all hands meeting today. And one of them was coming from Rawlings, which is a recovery contractor that works on behalf of the plans to recover personal injury cases. And he was talking about how few of the cases that he handled that they were pursuing recovery on behalf of the plans against a personal injury firm were actually represented by experts, meaning most personal injury firms are doing this themselves. And the reason for that is because traditionally law firms have performed this function, but it really is no different than a law firm could do probate and estate work or could do guardianship or other niche areas of the law, but typically that's outsourced to other lawyers. Lien resolution just has not seen the kind of adoption yet, but I do think it's certainly becoming more mainstream, particularly as more firms become focused on how their staff is spending their time. Because if you look at the amount of time spent on lien resolution in a personal injury practice, at the end of the case, after fees have been secured, it's basically, a drain on time and money, resources that aren't plentiful. And so, when you've got a partner like us that's got deep expertise and experience, does this day in, day out, can do it in a manner that ultimately takes things off the plate of paralegals and lawyers in the firm, and the cost of resolution is typically passed along as a client cost, it becomes a no-brainer, particularly when you're talking about you would have to have an incredibly deep team for a law firm to be able to understand Medicare, Medicaid, ERISA, FEBA, military, private, hospital. I mean, you're talking about a lot of different types of lien holders, and all with their different rules and laws and statutes and formulas. And, for the typical law firm, that depth of expertise, they don't have it. We do, because the majority of our team has come from the other side that we've hired from, who understand this and understand tax tactics to resolve these things in the most positive manner. So for the law firms, it really is a no-brainer when they sit down and evaluate it. We can walk them through the economics of it, because the economics of it are going to sell most firms if they're in tune with, what their overhead is as relates to this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not a law firm owner or lawyer at all, but that seems to make sense to me. I can see, them thinking, no, is it going to cost me more money? And I got to hire this other firm to handle all these things for me. But am I right to say that you're probably more successful at getting these resolved and more money out of these cases as well, right?
Yeah, typically our results are going to be better. And, it's analogous to what you guys do. I mean, if a law firm wanted to recreate the depth of knowledge and expertise that your team has, it costs them so much time and money. If they outsource this to you, you're able to get the best results and at the lowest price point, because trying to recreate the depth of knowledge to get those kinds of results, it's not going to be a fruitful endeavor, especially when the law firm really, their primary goal is to secure compensation for the injured, not become experts in lien resolution or marketing, right? So you want the best people, the best equipped people to help you and help your injured client in our services get the best outcome. And that's exactly, what law firms, expect when they engage us.
Yeah,
we can deliver on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about moving the case through the process and getting it dealt with. And time is, you don't want to extend the timeline on that. It sounds like bringing you in would shorten that timeline and take time and effort off the team that can be working on other cases. So
yeah, it's time on desk, bottlenecks. I mean, that's when you look at this particular area, it is always problematic for law firms. And it's not always that you can speed it up, but if that's removed from the plate of paralegal who's got, tasks that they can do that enhances the value of another case or moves another case to resolution versus sitting on hold with Medicare. As a law firm owner, what would you rather your paralegal be doing? I would think it would be, enhancing value of your client's cases or moving cases towards resolution faster or helping you prep for trial, not sitting on hold with Medicare for the 15th time.
Something to get more out of the team that you already have. But, that makes sense to me. So yeah, well, I guess kind of like marketing, like you said. If you wanted to hire my team, with the expertise, you'd have to have, if it was the knowledge of my team, they'd have to have 6 full-time people that would cost, a couple $100,000 a year at minimum just to have this. And those people would probably be bored to death because they'd have one client to focus on. So yeah, I get what you're saying. So yeah, it makes sense. I mean, so yeah, I guess, for my attorneys out there listening, familiarize yourself with this service, and Jason's company, of course, Synergy. I checked it out, and again, as a non-lawyer, firm owner, that sounds like a no-brainer to me. It's something that still I'm not super, dialed in with and familiar with, but, I know that time on desk and moving cases through, is the lifeblood of a firm. So it makes sense to me.
And as law firms really dig deeper on metrics and how to run their firm, at the right profit margin, and that's critical is looking at time on desk. And this is one area where, that is something that if you evaluate it and look at time spent by staff, it is going to be a business no-brainer when you really evaluate that cost to the firm.
Yeah. Today's episode is brought to you by Answering Legal. Now I just switched my company, Array Digital, over to Answering Legal, and it's made my life a whole lot easier. If I can't get to the phone, their 24/7 virtual receptionists take the call and take them through a full intake process, so we never miss new business again. Now, Answering Legal has been at this for more than a decade, and they specialize in answering phone calls for law firms like yours. They even have a brand new, easy-to-use app, and they integrate with all the top legal softwares and platforms. So, for my listeners today, we actually have a special deal of a 400-minute free trial offer of Answering Legal services that you can try out by going to answeringlegal.com/array. You can also call 631-437-4803 and use special code DAISY. That's my last name, DAISEY. So go check them out, and let's get back to the show. Yeah. Well, I want to switch gears quickly, because you are you have multiple businesses and you're a lawyer yourself, and you have different passions, but just more of an entrepreneurship, switch up here. So you're running all these things, you're involved in all these things. Like, what does that look like for you? I mean, you enjoy all those things, I assume. And as an entrepreneur, you get bored. I like to do different things, start other companies, and we kind of create chaos for ourselves. But, he's like, yeah. But kind of what's that like? What's your day look like, with Synergy versus your firm versus other things you have going on, for those out there listening?
Yeah, it can be, or at least look disjointed. I, in the midst of writing my third book, I've got a podcast like this. It's like you talked about. I've got thought leadership content that I create. I've got, internal duties for Synergy. I've got a law practice. Like this morning, I'm in a hearing for a Medicaid recipient. I still do work with clients individually on the government benefits planning side, or just trying to figure out legally what's the best vehicles to protect the recovery. So yeah, it is, for me, it's all stuff that I'm passionate about and love doing. So it's pretty easy to, look at this and say, it makes sense for me. It's probably not for everybody. I mean, I've come from a family of entrepreneurs and probably was destined to be kind of where I am just by virtue of the experiences I had. When I got out of law school, I practiced. I had med mal defense work and then did workers' comp defense work, so insurance defense work, and then said, I need to do something that's more business oriented and still serving that same population, and got into settlement planning, and that kind of led into lien resolution. And so it's been an evolution for me of getting to a place where I can leverage my education background, my areas of expertise, particularly in Medicare compliance, government benefits, healthcare lien resolution. Those are all areas where, I've developed a niche, and my practice personally. And, I find it rewarding because I get the opportunity to help people, whether it's helping a law firm, take something off their plate, like the Medicaid lien I handled this morning, or, assisting someone that's been injured with how do they keep their government benefits intact, or the thought leadership, writing a book that's going to help lawyers or help someone that's injured. Like the books I've written, the money that those have generated goes to charity. I'm not doing that for my own personal gain. I'm doing it to help and hopefully help, whether it's a trial lawyer identify an issue or injured party better understand what's going to happen next. That's my, part of what for me drives all of this, is that I actually get to be part of the solution. There's not a lot of businesses where you can say, definitively, here's an outcome, like particularly dollars saved for an injured party that they need to care for themselves. That is an incredible opportunity that we have.
That's awesome. No, I agree. I appreciate you explaining that. And honestly, I think it's awesome. I think, for me or any lawyers listening, lawyers that probably listen to my show anyway, we're drawn to those kinds of people, people that they have different passions and they're pursuing those passions. And, they run strong companies and relationships across the board. So, it's just cool to see what you're doing and how it all ties together with your story and your background. And it's always cool to see people's story on how they navigate to kind of what they end up doing and through experience and things like that. So, just a cool story and background. So, and you're out there helping people. So that's great. So
never a straight line path though, for sure. Like if you had asked me, when I was in law school, would I end up here? I would have never, ever guessed it, ever.
Would you end up on the Managing Partners podcast? Never thought in a million years.
Right. Exactly.
Well, I'm glad you're on here sharing. So it's a really cool story and helping a lot of people a lot of different ways. So you had 3 books. I want to make sure we route those off. So what was your first book?
First book, Art of Settlement. And actually the second edition of that book is coming out sometime the end of this month is what I'm told by my publishers. That basically I've just taken that and updated it, enhanced it. And so really thrilled about the opportunity to release that second edition. The second book was called Litigation to Life. So the first book was written for trial lawyers, central guide to issue spot, understand issues that are important for their clients. Litigation to Life was written for injured parties to better understand what they might expect when they're going through the process. Third book is, don't have a title yet, but it's basically a treatise on healthcare lien resolution, specifically written for trial lawyers to help guide them on different aspects of lien resolution, from the ethics of all of it to why they might want to outsource to the details for liens that they don't outsource, different types of liens and what are important salient points related to all of that. So, similar, to Art of Settlement, just more focused on the healthcare lien resolution, and hopefully become an essential desktop guide for trial lawyers to have when they need a little more substance and information about healthcare lien resolution, or trying to do it themselves. Although I would still tell them, probably want to call us.
Just call Jason and his team. Well, that's amazing. Well, good luck and congrats on the books that you already have out and the third one you have coming out. What is the best way for my lawyer friends to connect with you? I know it's the partnerwithsynergy.com, right?
Yeah, that's Synergy's website. And if they want to learn more about me, they can go to jasondlazarus.com. That website's got links to the books that I've written and a little bit of information about me. But ultimately, really it's connecting through partnerwithsynergy.com or find me on LinkedIn and, other ways. But too, if you want to contact me directly, it's jason@partnerwithsynergy.com. And I always give out my cell phone too. Feel
Go
free to
ahead.
text me or call me 407-687-4165.
Yeah, if you message me too, I'll do an intro by email or LinkedIn. I'm happy to do that for you. Also, if you go to jasondlazarus.com, his LinkedIn's linked to the footer there too, so you can just hop over there and
I
connect.
am, right now we're offering free digital copies of the first edition of my book. So if anybody's listening to the podcast, wants a copy of that book, feel free to email me, jason@partnerwithsynergy.com, and we'll get a free copy of that sent to you.
Absolutely. And then your podcast, Trial Lawyer View, I was just on that recently, so that'll be coming out later this year, I think. But I appreciate you having me on. But check out the podcast, awesome podcast. Has a great file and great content there. So you can also check him out. You can check out Jason all over the place.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. And it was great having you. And love the opportunity to talk to trial lawyers and people like you who have so much to give to the audience. I know, I'm sure you experience this. You learn so much by hosting a podcast, and it's very cool to get that opportunity.
Oh man, it's invaluable. Folks all the time are like, why lawyers and why marketing and why all this other stuff? But the podcast for me, I think I always tell people I started just to meet lawyers. And that was it. And then it became like, my clients are lawyers, so I learn from them, about them, their needs and what drives them, and how they're growing their firms and what's important. And then, of course, referrals and connections. But there's just so much I learned just that I can also apply to my own business. So it's like, I can't even count all the positives that come out of it. So, it's been great. And I'm just, I was sitting here talking to you about lien resolution or stuff about law firms. I'm not a lawyer, so I can hang in there, but I can get lost pretty quickly too. So I try my best, but I've just learned so much about the industry and how it impacts people, to be honest with you. So it's been quite amazing. So
yeah, me too. And that's what's just cool about getting to do these. Whether I'm talking to somebody else or having someone on my podcast, it really is an opportunity to have conversations that are meaningful. And as I said, we have the opportunity and privilege. We're involved in a marketplace that really helps people, which is not too many businesses get that.
It's interesting. I just got one the other day. I had a lady reach out to me with an injury, thinking that I was a lawyer, and she was in California and was like, "Hey, I'm having a problem just getting a lawyer, like to call me back or get in touch." And I know that's a problem across the board, but so I talked to her, just like, found out she had some surgeries and she had this injury and all this stuff. And I'm like, so I literally got a hold of two law firms that I know in California, and they both reached out to her immediately. And she texted me back like this long, like, thank you. And, so I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So, but I'll have lawyers reach out to me and say, hey, Kevin, do you know a lawyer that does this in this state? I usually do. Friends, family, Kevin, I need a lawyer. Like, it happens all the time. A podcast guest will call, hey, I got a guy in my office. He's in Virginia. You're in Virginia, so it's, it become a little bit of a resource there for referrals. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give referral fees, but happy to refer anybody. So if you have a need, let me know. I'll find someone that can help you.
Yeah, I do it all the time too. I get them through the internet, because I've got a lot of content, and even the injured parties will find me, and I try to do what I can to try and get them to the right place.
Yeah, which is cool. That's been growing, and I've been every time I get someone that needs help, like, all right, who do I know? I can connect the dots and help them out. So the podcast has been awesome for that. So Jason, man, I appreciate you coming on to share your story and your passion. And if you PI folks out there don't know this is a service, I would suggest connect with Jason, check out Synergy. And I've met with some of the members of his team, and they're just rock solid. So I think you'd be in good hands. So check them out and connect with them.
No, I appreciate that. And one thing I forgot to mention, but we have pretty interesting client portal that allows clients 24/7 access to resolution data, so they can see in real time what's going on with the resolution of cases. So it's not just about the expertise we have. We've also created these digital ways of interacting with clients to make it easier for them to see what's going on and send us documents and whatnot. It's become so digital these days, obviously, with the way things are moving, as fast as they're moving. That's something that's really important to have as part of the delivery of these services.
Oh, yeah. Communication and updates. Like that's, one of the biggest complaints you'll see on any bar for a state, bars, communication and organization and know what's going on. And that's just a big problem across the board. So that's super important these days. And all is moving fast, but again, as I talk to firms, on the lower level of sophistication on a daily basis, you're surprised. Like a website that's 10, 15 years old and, they've never done marketing and, there's plenty out there that just have to wake up or they're going to be left behind. So, but you guys are on the cutting edge. So that's good. Well, cool. Jason, thanks so much for coming on and sharing. And everyone, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed Jason's story. Very unique. And, he's out there doing good things. So please connect with him and we'll see you on the next episode.
Appreciate the invite.
Everyone, we'll see you soon. Jason, stay on with me. See you on the other side.